latest reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alyson Grange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global south. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost. Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Alyson Grange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. First, let's take a look at the headlines. An Air India plane heading to London with over 240 people on board crashes in Ahmedabad, killing at least 210. Prime Minister Narendra Modi calls the tragedy heartbreaking beyond words and is monitoring the response closely. The UN's nuclear watchdog accuses Iran of breaching its non-proliferation obligations for the first time in 20 years, warning of a possible UN Security Council referral. It comes as Tehran prepares for a fresh round of nuclear talks with the US. Colombia's President Gustavo Petro accuses the US and far-right groups of plotting to overthrow his government, echoing claims by Venezuela's Maduro that Washington is trying to flood Colombia with criminal gangs. A Chinese national is sentenced to 3 years in jail for severing an undersea cable off Taiwan's coast. It's the first conviction in growing concerns over Beijing's alleged sabotage of Taiwan's internet links. And Germany's Defense Minister Boris Pistorius arrives in Kiev to discuss more weapons aid for Ukraine as Russian attacks intensify and recent peace talks struggle to make headway. Hello and welcome. Now, we've been tracking this story for days. The arrest, the death, the alleged cover-up. Now Kenyan President Ruto has finally said it out loud. Albert Ojwang died at the hands of the police. A massive admission, and one that has only added fuel to a nation already on edge. It can be considered official. The president himself has said it. Albert Ojwang, the 31-year-old who died in police custody, was killed by the very people meant to protect him. In a statement on Wednesday, President Ruto called the incident heartbreaking and unacceptable and ordered a swift, transparent investigation. It's a stunning admission. After days of outrage, protests, and a mounting demand for answers,
they are seriously lying to us. They are killing us and keep on lying to us. We will not accept that at all. Albert must get justice. We will be here every day. This is just the beginning. We were here yesterday, and we will be here up to the June 25th, 2025. It will be the culmination of demonstrations for everything, including the protest against the Finance Bill 2025.
Remember, Ojwang was arrested for a social media post. He had shared a fake newspaper front page accusing Deputy Police Chief Eliud Lagat of corruption. Their headline read, "The Mafia Cop." Then he vanished. Transferred from Western Kenya to Nairobi, and days later, he was dead. Police claimed he hit his own head against a cell wall. But on Tuesday, a government pathologist made it clear. The injuries were unlikely to be self-inflicted. And that changed everything. Protests have been building all week, and President Ruto's administration and his admission has only deepened the public fury. In Nairobi, protesters demonstrated outside the Deputy Inspector General's office.
office of the IG and the deputy IGs, and we are demanding for them to come out and listen to our complaints. For us, we want specifically Edward Langat to resign and step aside from his office so that investigations can be done properly. And he's the main suspect in the death of Albert Ojwang. So we want him to be charged and a trial to be started so that we can determine what exactly happened so that Albert Ojwang ended up dead.
For many, this feels all too familiar. A year ago, Kenyans took to the streets against police brutality and corruption. 60 people died. Dozens went missing. Some never came back. And now, another name, another body added to that list. 5 police officers have been removed from duty as the investigation continues. But rights groups say it's not enough. They're calling for criminal charges, not just suspensions. The US and the UK have also weighed in, demanding a thorough independent probe into what they're calling a deeply concerning case. So what now? A presidential admission, a promise of justice, but no arrests and no accountability yet. Ojwang's family and the country want more than words. They want action, and until they get it, the protests won't stop. Now, for more on this, we have with us on the show Lungu, an international affairs expert, joining us live from Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you for being with us.
Yes, thank you, Alyson. And it's good to see you today.
Now, and good to have you on the show. What does the death of Albert Ojwang in police custody suggest about the progress or the lack thereof of President Ruto's promises to reform Kenya's security services and to end extrajudicial killings?
Yeah, thank you so much, Alyson. As I speak to you, Kenyans are rioting outside this building where I am, right in the city center of Nairobi. So you could hear the gunshots in the background. So please bear with me if the gunshots are too loud. Maybe just to begin, just by explaining to you that the president promised that there will be no more extrajudicial killings. But the killing of Ojwang has actually proved the president wrong, that he has made empty promises which his government is unable to keep. His government is unable to follow through and prevent extrajudicial killings. So what does this imply is that the country is, the public is becoming more and more uncomfortable, more and more agitated. And today, the streets of Nairobi are a no-go zone. As I speak today, the civil rights activists, joined by the youth, the Gen Zs that are actually on the street, they're running battles right in front of our offices here in the city center. And you can't walk on the streets of Nairobi right now as I speak. Parliament has just been reading has just been presenting the budget for the day, but very few MPs were actually able to attend because they cannot be able to access Parliament because of the current riots. So that's the kind of situation that is happening here in Nairobi.
Right. And Luke, how might this incident influence public trust in the government and the police, especially as the country approaches the anniversary of last year's mass protests demanding accountability and change?
Yes, the president last year during the Gen Z riots that will be commemorated on 25th, just in 2 weeks' time, promised and formed a broad-based government. He promised that this kind of killings will not happen again. But the trust following the killing of Ojwang in the hands of the police and the admission by the president himself that he was killed in the hands of the police has actually diminished those hopes of ever doing away with the extrajudicial killings. So this is likely has influenced public trust. There is no more public trust in government. As you can see, witness what's happening in Nairobi today. We're not so sure if these riots are actually taking place in other parts of the country, but this may just be the beginning of more unrest in the streets of Nairobi and most of the parts of Western Kenya, where the deceased hailed from, in the coming 2 weeks. Because at the moment, as we speak, the public's demanding the resignation of the police boss, but he has not resigned. Lagat has not resigned.
Right.
The people who are actually found to have culpable have actually also not resigned. So that's exactly what's happening at the moment. There's lack of public trust, and this may just cause more chaos as the Kenyans wait for the commemoration of the 25th anniversary of the first rise that actually led to more than 100 people dead in Nairobi.
Yes. And Luke, what are the possible political and legal implications for President Ruto and his administration following his acknowledgement that the blogger had died at the hands of the police, contrary to the earlier official statements?
Yes, I'll begin maybe with the legal. The legal side of it is that the matter is in court. The matter is actually in both houses of parliament, the Senate and the National Assembly. And the matter has been discussed since yesterday and even today, with the Minister for Internal Security, Kipchumba Murkomen, being grilled by both houses of parliament. So the legal side is that the civil rights activists are moving to court to demand justice for Ojwang. And the case may just be in court, and the policemen who are involved will actually some of them have been stripped of their work. They are not reporting to work. But as it is, it's still very unclear whether the police will arrest their fellow police officers and drag them to court. So that will remain to be seen. So the legal battle is already on. Politically, right. It is going to be very, very difficult for President Ruto to reclaim his lost ground supporters. At the moment, it's very unfortunate that the activist who was killed in the hands of the police was actually hails from his partner in government, Raila Amolo Odinga, the opposition leader. He hails from his backyard. And you can see that most of the MPs, the politicians from that backyard, have condemned the police action and are demanding answers. They have actually even made it very clear that they are willing to move or walk out of the government if this matter is not resolved. So politically, the president is now facing it very difficult because the allies he had actually just recently been able to bring on board are actually weighing on whether to continue being part of the broad-based government or to actually withdraw altogether. Secondly, politically, having impeached his deputy president, the region where he got very many votes, it's unlikely that this kind of event will attract votes for him come 2 years elections in 2027. So politically, the president is facing a crisis where he may find it difficult to push matters through, even in government, in parliament, if this matter of Ojwang is not handled in the best way possible.
Absolutely. Luke, thank you very much for being with us on Firstpost Africa.
Thank you so much, Alyson. You're welcome.
Moving on, a Gaza-bound convoy of hundreds of pro-Palestine activists arrived in Libya after driving through Algeria and crossing through Tunisia. These activists are marching to challenge Israel's blockade on humanitarian aid on Gaza. Now, flag-waving Libyans welcomed the convoy as it reached the capital Tripoli. The Somud Convoy, or the March of the Free convoy, made up of at least 1,500 people, with more expected to join from Libya, drove through Tripoli, Misrata, Sirte and Benghazi, and reached the Slum crossing, which borders Egypt. The convoy is expected to reach Cairo before heading to the Rafah crossing.
We are heading now to Rafah border crossing between Egyptian Rafah and Palestinian Rafah to break the siege on our brothers in Gaza, which has been under siege for 18 years before the war and 18 months after the war. This extermination is in full view of the world. So these peoples needed to move. This movement has a clear goal, which is the liberation of Palestine and to break the siege on our brothers in Gaza, who are being exterminated, burnt while being hungry, and are being tortured. So we had to make this movement, and this is the beginning of it, and we'll continue, and the convoy will continue until it reaches the furthest point until reaching the goal, which is very clear, breaking the siege. Just breaking the siege, enough of humiliation and complicity.
Though Egypt says it backs efforts to put pressure on Israel to lift the Gaza blockade, it has called on activists to obtain official permits through Egyptian embassies abroad or through foreign missions in Cairo on their journey from Tunisia to the Rafah border. Egypt says any delegation that bypasses protocol will not be allowed entry. Reports say at least 100 activists were arrested by authorities upon their arrival in Egypt. 15 others were also reportedly deported from the Cairo International Airport over concerns they would join the March of the Free. Now, these were mostly Moroccan nationals who said they came for tourism. They were interrogated for 30 minutes before being detained and denied entry and then sent back. Cairo's action came after Israel called on Egypt to block convoys planning to head to Rafah border crossing. Calling these protests a provocation, Israel said that it would endanger the safety of Israeli soldiers. The March of the Free was launched on the day that Israel intercepted an aid ship, also attempting to breach its blockade on Gaza, which was carrying 12 people, including campaigner Greta Thunberg and a member of the European Parliament. Now, Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, which the protesters will have to cross to reach Rafah, is a tightly controlled security zone, with access routes frequently punctuated by military and police checkpoints. This, along with Egypt's requirement for clearance, has cast doubt on whether the activists would reach the Rafah border crossing.
We will arrive safely and return safely to Tunisia. We call on the Tunisian authorities to facilitate our entry into Egypt, as conflicting reports indicate that the chances of us being allowed to enter are equal to those of being refused entry.
After 20 months of war, Israel is facing mounting international pressure to allow more aid into Gaza. The United Nations says the Palestinian enclave was the hungriest place on earth right now. Now, in Egypt, around 4,000 more participants are expected to join the March of the Free. But will they be able to end the Gaza blockade? We will continue to get you all the updates. Next, let's take a look at Zambia. The southern African country is mourning, but it is also embroiled in a political row at a time of immense grief. And at the center of this drama is a former head of state who is no more alive. I'm talking about the late Edgar Lungu. Now, the former president of Zambia passed last Thursday. He was an influential leader, had a terrific reach among the masses, even though he was barred from running in the upcoming elections. Edgar Lungu led the country from 2015 to 2021, and his death really hit the nation close to home. There's a state funeral in place, radio stations switched to gospel music in his remembrance, the flags come down. So there's genuine sadness in the air. At times like these, you'd expect a country to stand united. But instead of that, the former president's funeral plans have turned into a political tug-of-war. And who's involved in this power struggle? His family, the current state government, and Edgar Lungu's political party, which is called the Patriotic Front, or the PF. And the result of this episode? Confusion, chaos, and a country unsure of how to say goodbye to someone who led it for 7 years. So what should have been a solemn national moment is now marred by political infighting. Let me explain what's happening here. On one side is the ruling government. On the other side, Lungu's family and his party, the PF. All of them have conflicting ideas on how to honor him. First, there's a row with the state funeral. The current administration says that the venue will be a government-owned lodge in Lusaka. That's the capital of Zambia. But Lungu's party immediately pushed back. They have told mourners to gather at the party headquarters. So Zambians had to choose between two venues. Then came the body. Now, the government wanted to bring it back from South Africa last week. That's where Lungu had passed. It's believed he died of some undisclosed illness. But the family and the PF wanted to do that themselves. So the state wanted to give military honors. The family said not without them. They wanted to handle and organize the return. And then came the condolence book. Now, this is basically a place where people write honorary messages to the dead, a way for citizens to pay respect. The Zambian government set up an official one at the lodge, but the PF rejected that. Lungu's party created one of their own and said that mourners should sign their book instead. That was made at the party headquarters. So now there are two books at two different locations. It didn't just stop at that. The Zambian government declared a 7-day mourning starting last Saturday, but the PF had announced their own days earlier. So even the timeline for grieving has a point of contention. In the backdrop of all of this, there runs a deep political as well as a personal rivalry. There is a long, bitter history between Edgar Lungu and his successor, who happens to be the current president, Hakainde Hichilema. Now, when Lungu was president, he jailed Hichilema for 100 days on treason charges. Now, 4 years later, losing power to him, Lungu's family said that the current government played a role in his death. They claim that he was blocked from leaving Zambia for medical treatment, and if he'd been allowed earlier, he might have survived. The government denies that flatly. They say that he was never stopped from going abroad. Instead, they accused Lungu's party, the PF, of using his death for political gain. That was all about Zambia's current scenario. A private memorial was held in South Africa on Tuesday. The former First Lady and Lungu's daughter attended, but the body wasn't flown home, and negotiations are still ongoing. But for now, the nation waits. It is watching a power struggle unfold over a former leader's farewell. The question remains, who decides how Edgar Lungu is laid to rest? And finally, to our special segment, Resurgent Africa. Amid the coups and the crises, there are many positive stories from Africa that often get overlooked, but not on this show. Today, our story is from Kenya, where Nairobi slum is witnessing an unlikely financial revolution. In Kibera, one of Africa's largest informal settlements, residents are skipping cash and paying with Bitcoin, joining the crypto wave. They say it's fast, paperless, and in a place long overlooked by banks. It is offering more than just financial freedom, but the crypto world comes with a major set of risks. Watch our next story on Kenya's quiet Bitcoin breakthrough.
In the heart of one of Africa's largest informal settlements, a quiet financial revolution is brewing. In Nairobi's Kibera, a growing number of residents are ditching cash and turning to Bitcoin for daily transactions. From buying food to paying for tea, Bitcoin is becoming a common payment method. The shift began in 2022 when Kenyan fintech Afribit Africa launched Bitcoin-based grants. This targeted garbage workers in Kibera. Residents like Onesmus Manning say Bitcoin is safer in a place where carrying cash can make you a target.
I have been using Bitcoin for like 1.5 years. Since I have known Bitcoin, it has been good. That is one. Number two, it helps not carry bulky cash in the pocket. You know, when you have cash in your pockets, you become a target for thieves and your life will be in danger. Number two, it is easy to use because you can go buy something by scanning.
For others, it's the simplicity. With just a phone, no ID and no paperwork, anyone can start a digital wallet in minutes. For the underbanked, Bitcoin opens a door to basic financial services.
We collect waste in each and every doorstep, and after that we put them, we sort them, we recycle it, we put it into actions, we sort them, everything where it is. And then after that, the work and the tiring, at least, to get something to go for after shower, eat and refreshments, that's where Bitcoin comes in. Yeah, the sats come, I have my Bitcoin wallet, I come to our treasurer and, scans for us. At least I get something to go and shower, to go and refresh myself, and to go and relax after work.
Merchants are catching on too. Vegetable seller Doti Anyam calls Bitcoin a game changer. She calls it cheap, fast and fee-free. She saves in crypto and uses cash to restock.
I started using Bitcoin last year. I sell vegetables using cash and Bitcoin. So far daily around 9 to 15 use Bitcoin when business is good. I like it because it is cheap and fast and doesn't have any transaction costs. When people pay using Bitcoin, I save that money and use cash to restock vegetables. I would like for the Bitcoin rates to continue increasing so that I can at least make a profit.
Afribit Africa says the mission is empowerment using Bitcoin to bridge the gap for communities left out by banks and formal finance. The focus is on informal workers and vegetable vendors who make up most of Kibera's economy.
We are about community empowerment, and this is by using Bitcoin tools to empower and provide knowledge to these communities. Right now we work with merchants, mama mbogas mainly, they would be called, and the waste management groups.
And this isn't just a local story. Kenya ranks among the top countries in Africa for cryptocurrency adoption. Inflation, banking gaps and digital savviness are driving Bitcoin's appeal across the country and across the continent. But the hype comes with warnings. Critics say crypto's volatility can be dangerous, especially for the communities already on the edge. Digital literacy, connectivity and smartphone costs remain big obstacles to mainstream use. Still, for many in Kibera, Bitcoin offers something new, a sense of control, a way to save, a way to be seen in a system that often ignores them.
In many cases, people in Kibera do not have an opportunity to secure their lives, with normal savings. They're already excluded from the main financial systems. So it's very hard for them to be able, to plug into any mainstream financial system. But we see Bitcoin has been trusted, it's permissionless.
While Bitcoin may not fix poverty, it is offering new tools and new choices to people often left out of the financial system. And for many residents, that's a start.
And that's it on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching and goodbye.